Hey folks, this is John Miller, Executive Editor with WB News. We would like to welcome you to Ask the Experts, featuring John Halderman of Beacon Wealth Management. John is the founder, owner, and certified wealth strategist at Beacon Wealth Management. You can find out more at bwmwb.com. And now live from the studios of the Exponent Telegram in Clarksburg, West Virginia, let's Ask the Expert. Welcome to Ask the Expert with Beacon Wealth Management's John Halderman. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. How are you today?
Oh, I've been great. I tell you what, I know, in previous shows we talked a little bit about taxes and planning and things like that, and it's only September, and, tax season, people think it's in April, but really it's now, and, so many people, they just file their taxes and hope and pray, and there's a lot more to it, isn't there?
To me, the saddest thing is when they get their information and they just go and do a QuickBooks, or they go to their accountant and they say, hey, look, I want to file my taxes. But the reality of it is the IRS lets us decide how much we want to pay in taxes. And when I say that, it all boils down to your tax knowledge. The more tax knowledge you have, the more you can work within the code to be able to reduce your tax burden. But the problem is that, like you said, most people are just filing taxes. And so when I think of it, I think of what I call the tax trilogy. And that is, you got to develop a tax strategy. And when I say this is, you got to understand, are there strategies, are there things that I could be doing that's going to reduce my burden? Now, that's not a one-time planning thing. Then you got to go on to tax management, which is ongoing, looking at your situation and saying, what can I do to take advantage of opportunities? And then the third and least impactful is actually, after those two things are done, is the actual filing itself. And so you definitely got to do the first two before you get to the third one.
Yeah, obviously, most of us, our eyes probably glaze over when we think about taxes and taxes, and we just hate doing it. But, going to someone like yourself who's got a lot of expert knowledge, what do people have to do? What do they have to bring to you? How much time do they need to devote to it to sit down with you and have you help them?
Well, I'll give you a good example. I think the number one thing you got to bring is you got to bring an open mind, okay? And I'll give you an example. A couple years ago, the IRS had a thing called ERTC, okay? That was Employee Retention Credits. And they put it out there that businesses could qualify for COVID relief. Well, I was calling our clients, and I was speaking to one of them who has a tax background, who is a fairly wealthy individual, and I said, hey, did you file for ERTC credits? And they said, no, I spoke to my CPA, and my CPA said that I didn't qualify. And I said, well, why did they say that? And they said, because I didn't lose money during that time period. And I said, well, it's not about if you lost money. It was about if you were impacted by COVID. And I said that could be supply chain issues, that could be hours of operation, that could be employees off, different things. And I said, but there's only one true way to know. And that is, you got to file a return on that. The IRS will tell you whether you qualified or not qualified. So he said, so you're saying that if I turn this in, I have nothing to lose other than the fact that I may qualify. And I said, absolutely. Well, guess what? He ended up getting $2 million. That's a big, big deal. When you get over $2 million and you didn't even think that you qualified for it. And it just really boiled down to not understanding the tax laws, not understanding the code. The code was there. It was made available. But if you don't understand it, then you definitely can't take advantage of the opportunity. So that's a big deal right there.
How often do you think people, they don't know what they could qualify for?
Oh, often. Think about how complex taxes are. And then how many classes does the average person have in that stuff? My wife is an accountant by trade. But even as an accountant, most of her accounting information is taught to do corporate accounting and filing taxes. She worked in one of the big 5 tax firms, but even during that time period, being a newer person in the industry, she was not taught tax planning. That's usually something that, more people with more years and specialty do. And a lot of times people don't think they qualify for it, especially if they're, they have a small business or they work for a corporation. A lot of times they think, well, what can I do? But there's a ton of stuff that a person can do if you just understand the differences between tax filing versus tax strategy.
And is there another step? How do you manage all this and put it together?
Well, yeah, there's definitely a process. Everything you do, there's definitely a process. And so what I always tell people is if you're paying more taxes than what you think you should be paying, and I'm going to tell everybody, the first thing you need to look at is figure out exactly what tax bracket you're in. Because a lot of times people don't even know what their brackets are, okay? And so the first thing you need to do is figure out, okay, what bracket am I in, and can I do something to lower them? And one of the easiest things I think about all the time is, should I put pre-tax, should I put post-tax, or should I be putting in tax advantageous? And so what I mean about that with 401ks, naturally people have a tendency to go and put money in on a pre-tax basis because they want the tax deduction today. But they're not even thinking, what's that going to do to you down the road? Well, when you put money into a pre-tax 401k, okay, you get the tax deduction today, but when you take it out, it counts as ordinary income. And then upon your passing, when that goes to your children, they have to take it out within a 10-year period, and it counts as ordinary income against them. So what you potentially are doing is you're creating a tax bomb that may create more taxes for your children. What you also got to be thinking is, why am I deferring taxes today when taxes may go up down the road? And so what you got to look at is you got to look at the law and say, okay, does it really make sense to do that? When today there's lots of options that you can take advantage of with the Roth IRA, the Roth 401k, the Roth SEP IRA. All retirement plans now have an option that regardless of how much money you make, you can qualify for tax-free distributions down the road.
Really important, I think, that people understand, and there are people out there that do their own taxes and can probably figure it out, but looking towards somebody like yourself who's got years of experience and being able to sit down with you, when should people contact you, and what type of appointment are we looking at here? Is this an hour-long thing?
Yeah, it's definitely an hour-long. I mean, it's a discovery. And so I can't give advice without making sure I understand. And so part of what we're going to do is we're going to do a discovery to figure out exactly, what is it that's concerning people. And for some people, it is a tax burden, okay? And then once we get a good understanding of people's situation, then we're going to go through strategy. We're going to educate. And then once we go through strategy and you're now informed a little bit, then we're going to start narrowing down to recommendations. And so it's definitely a process, no different than any other type of professional advice. But the key to somebody is I tell them, don't wait. It's like anything in life. If you feel you're paying too much in taxes and you don't like it, then you got to ask yourself, what am I doing to make a difference? And so that's when I would call us immediately and say, let's talk. Because especially if you're a business owner, high income earner, anybody that's above the 22% tax bracket is getting hit extremely hard. And that burden can definitely be reduced if you have the knowledge and you do some tax strategies.
Clearly, the gentleman who was able to benefit $2 million, that was probably the best hour production he had, to be able to sit down with you and figure that out.
Oh, yeah.
So, again, it's a matter of planning. It's a matter of managing your tax strategies and really not just filing.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the biggest mistake people make is they just file the return. They don't think there's an option. And the reality of it is there could be an option, but you got to sit down and talk.
Well, folks, again, John Halterman with Beacon Wealth Management, always great information. Glad we're able to share it with you. We invite you to give him a call. Until the next time, thank you.